Today's guest is Jillian Steele. Based in Nashville, Jillian's been taking off in her local scene and raking in hundreds of thousands of Spotify streams. Fresh off the release of her latest single, Not Loved by You, welcome, Jillian.
Thank you. Hello.
How are you doing?
Great. How are you doing?
Doing so well.
With me.
So, yeah, let's start back at the beginning for you. Where were you born and raised, and how did music first come into your life?
I was born and raised in Long Island, New York, and I initially wanted to do acting. Theater was my thing as a kid, so I started doing like local theater productions when I was like 3 or 4, and then switched over to TV and film commercials. And so I got an agent in New York City when I was about 6 or 7. And then my mom would pick me up a couple days a week from school early. We'd drive into the city and then go on auditions and stuff. And then did a few like Barbie commercials, Crayola, but it kind of got old quick for me. I think around 11, I was kind of over it and just wanted to be a kid and hang out with my friends. So I stopped doing acting, and then when I was 12, taught myself the guitar and would play the Fearless Taylor Swift like guitar booklet front to back every day after school, and then started playing around with writing my own songs and loved it. So
Yeah, that's so cool. Let's take it back a bit. What kind of music were your parents into? What kind of music was around you when you were growing up?
my dad is like the world's biggest Tom Petty fan. So it was always Tom Petty and the Beatles in his car. So I still listen to that. And then my mom introduced me to like Fleetwood Mac, Stevie Nicks, Sheryl Crow when I was young. So like Taylor Swift, like Sheryl Crow was my Taylor Swift, and I would play all her songs too. And like I loved her writing, and I feel like I still try to emulate that a little bit.
Yeah, that's awesome. Were your parents musical at all? Like, did they play any instruments?
That's not true. My dad played guitar in a high school band. I don't know if he did it after high school, but I he just gave me his like purple glittery, it's like a Les Paul body guitar for Christmas, his old one, and I was like so excited. So now I have that. But no, my mom, not at all, can't sing for the life of her.
Yeah, that's cool that you're the first in your family then.
Yeah, pretty much.
So, what is something you learned from doing all these productions as a kid, like being in these, stage performances and these commercials? Did you take anything from it, like in terms of business or performing or anything?
Um, I think I got over stage fright at a very young age. I like feel pretty comfortable performing now, and also I think just got used to hearing no a lot and a lot of rejection and not taking it seriously. I think that helped because you hear a lot of no's in music and still like every day. And I think it helped doing that auditions and not getting that most of them as a kid to be like, okay, brushing it off, still gonna try the next one. And so that was probably the best takeaway.
Yeah, I bet. I mean, I'm sure it was hard as a kid to go through that, but it's an important thing to learn at some point in your life. And I guess getting out of the way sooner might have helped it quite a bit.
Yeah, it was fun. And my mom, I mean, she was there for every audition and everything, and she always made it fun. Like if it was a no or I got cut or didn't get a call back, it was like, let's go to dinner and get ice cream. And it's not the end of the world. So
That's awesome.
yeah.
So, what made you want to pick up the guitar in the first place? Were there any artists you specifically wanted to be like maybe Taylor Swift, or was it kind of just what drove you to do music?
Definitely Taylor Swift, more Sheryl Crow. I loved Miranda Lambert a lot. I remember the first time I heard "The House That Built Me." Do you know that song?
Yes,
I
so
remember
good.
I was like, "Oh my God, this is amazing! How do I write a song like this?" And I wanted to like be a country artist from New York so bad. But um, yeah, I think I just definitely Taylor Swift more than I think because I feel like she was the first person around my age at the time, a little bit older than me, that was like on stage with the guitar, blonde hair, and I was like, ooh, that's like the dream.
Yeah, that's awesome. So you mentioned you started writing your songs pretty soon after that. When did you first start writing your songs, and what were those songs like compared to your songs now?
Oh my God. I don't even know. If I had to listen to them now, it would be unlistenable. Oh my God, my cat. Um, oh, hi, Jagger. Um, they were not good. I know that. I mean, there are home videos of me when I was like 7 on my writing in my diary with like a glittery pen, and I was like just lyrics. I didn't play any instrument then. And so I think it was, I don't know, it was always something I wanted to do, but I would record some of my songs when I was like 12 or 13, like the first ones. And sometimes they'll come on in the car because they're downloaded to my music permanently. I don't know how to get rid of them. And it's like, oh, at least I was doing it then. But yeah, I've definitely come a long way since then.
Yeah, I mean, sounds like you have great sound now. So, I mean, I'm sure it's a lot different. When did you first start performing and like getting these songs out to the world, like maybe recording them or, when did you put your music out there?
So in college, I went to Belmont University in Nashville for songwriting, and I started recording some demos and putting them out on like SoundCloud and stuff like that. Um, but I still felt like I wasn't there yet with my writing. Like it definitely took being in Belmont and going through my 4 years as a songwriting major and working with other people. I mean, there weren't many people to collaborate with ever on Long Island. So like Nashville, coming here, it was like that's all you do is co-write every day. And I don't know, I think working with other people definitely made me a stronger writer. And so I started putting out some songs out there wherever they go. And there's a venue in Long Island called the Paramount. It's a pretty great venue, and a family friend of mine, Brian Doyle, owns it. And he's always been super supportive and wanted to help me out with my music as much as he could. And so he let me open for Hunter Hayes and Rachel Platten,
Oh, wow.
Paramount. And those weren't my first shows. Like I've done writers rounds here and stuff like that, and a few smaller big band shows, full band shows. But those were the first 2 shows where it was like 5 minutes down the street from where I grew up. And it's like my grandparents were there, my family, extended family, like my babysitter from when I was 1, like all my friends. So it was like the first time I was like, oh, I'm really gonna do this. And to open for like such big names was super nerve-wracking, but it's the first time I like really performed original songs in like a large crowd. So
How much had you performed before that? Just, in smaller crowds and I guess ways to kind of prepare for those big shows. Did you have a lot of practice?
no, not at all. I mean, I would perform, like I play guitar well enough to play for myself at writers rounds and stuff like that. But I'd played only like a handful of full band shows before then, so not much practice. But I think even doing theater as a kid and like singing nonstop on stage, that definitely prepared me, I think, for the
Yeah.
part, nerves part. Yeah.
That's so cool though. That's just kind of straight into the fire. That's crazy.
Yeah.
So what's the music scene like in New York, in Long Island growing up? What's the reaction to country music specifically?
Um, so I used to play, shoot, what was it called? Like Long Island Country Music Fest or something, in Riverhead out east. I did that through like middle school and high school every summer, but you didn't see a lot of country music. And there wasn't a writing scene on Long Island really at all. There was like a handful of people that I feel like I knew, but we didn't have similar styles. And even in like Manhattan now, I feel like it's hard to find a writing community like in New York, I mean, in Nashville. So like I definitely was missing that. And that's why I thought I was gonna move back to New York after Belmont. But I was like, you just can't beat like the music community, writing community in Nashville. So I stayed.
Awesome. So yeah, speaking of Nashville, tell us about what took you to Nashville. Like, when did you decide you want to go to Belmont and go to Nashville the first time? And a- along with that, when did you decide you wanted to pursue music and make that your focus?
So I had like a choir teacher in high school who pretty much was like, you need to go. I was clueless about music schools, and she kind of sat me down and we went on the computer and looked through every kind of music program. So I was really between Belmont here in Nashville and Berklee College of Music, Boston. And I had done a summer program at Berklee, songwriting and performance, and I loved it. And then I auditioned for Berklee, got in, auditioned for Belmont, got in. Hi, cats. And I just ended up visiting Nashville with my mom when I was 16. I'd watched the show Nashville on ABC.
Okay.
I just like loved it. I thought it was the coolest place, and I fell in love with Belmont and just Nashville as a city. And I kind of knew at that age that I wanted to be somewhere where outside of where I was studying, there was a music community and scene where I can kind of like do both at the same time. And that was definitely Nashville more than it was Boston. And yeah, I'm very happy here. Belmont, I met so many amazing people and people that I still work with today and on my new music. So it was definitely a great experience.
Yeah, sounds like it. That's so cool. What were your first expectations when you went into Nashville, and how did Nashville meet those expectations, or was it totally different?
Um, you think that people would be more aggressive drivers in New York, but they're way worse here. That was like the biggest shock about Nashville still. Um, it's funny, I didn't know what kind of music I wanted to do. I never really considered myself country or pop. I just like singing everything and writing everything. But I think people assume Nashville's all country, and it's not. Like there's like a huge R&B scene. The pop scene is growing out of control. Like a lot of people moving here from New York, LA now. Um, so it's funny because even in school and out of school, I wrote probably 90% pop, 10% country. And it wasn't until like the beginning of quarantine that I was like, I want to write more country for myself and for others, and just like try and incorporate more of like a Nashville sound to pop music. Because I think I assumed like going straight pop and writing straight pop, I would get that one song that would take off. So it was like every session I would go in writing for that one pop hit, and it was never the case. And it's like a hard way to go about it. And so I think being in Nashville definitely like brought me back to like the Sheryl Crow roots that I loved, and like just the music here and writing style. It took years, but I think I'm finally back at like the start of writing music that I like grew up on and loved and made me want to start writing.
Yeah, that's so cool. What was it like first getting into recording in Nashville? How was it to find these connections? I mean, did you know people to work with at first? You have to go searching for them. How's that experience?
Um, I got here. I knew a couple of people in New York at Sony who set me up at Sony ATV with some sessions my second year at Belmont. So I would go to the Sony ATV studios and write, or like these bands and other writers' home studios. And then just being at Belmont, I mean, you meet everyone there is a writer, or producer, or singer. And so I just worked with people at Belmont as well, and everyone records. Now you all you need is the laptop, and like plugins and whatever. I don't understand any of that. But so yeah, I worked with a lot of Belmont producers, and then I'd work with some producers in New York when I would go back for break. And now my boyfriend is also a songwriter and a producer, so he produces all my stuff now. Our studio is literally in the other room, so it's super convenient.
Wow.
And he moved here from New York, so that's been super easy and nice, especially being in quarantine. It's like in the next room over, and we don't have to Zoom with another producer and wait, and it's been very nice.
Yeah, that's so cool. Have you played any shows around Nashville? oh, after Belmont and all that stuff?
Yes, I love a good writers round. Like I'll go and watch them all the time. I feel like the Bluebird a few times, which is super crazy because I watched the show Nashville and I was like, that's the goal, that's the dream. So doing that was awesome. There's a bunch of other listening rooms. The listening room is one of them. I played writers rounds there, and then a few showcases that were full band. BMI and I don't know, Breaking Sound, I think is the name of the other one. I love it. It's not opened back up yet, any of the shows. Like I have a writer's round at the listening room coming up, but that's about it as far as shows are. Like shows
Gotcha.
stuff, yeah. Still
Yeah.
kind of fun.
Yeah, that's awesome. And hopefully shows start coming back really soon, 2021. I mean, that's the dream for all artists over there, I feel like. So, what's something that you're excited for that's coming up?
Um, so what am I excited for? I just released Not Loved by You, and I talked about like incorporating more of the Nashville sound into my new stuff, and that kind of was the first song that's gonna pave the way for the rest. And I think it took being in quarantine and going back to writing a lot of songs just by myself on guitar and kind of finding that like songwriter sound again. And so I feel like the next music I have coming is like very different than a lot of the pop stuff I've released in the past. Like the writing is more, I guess, personal and storytelling than it has been in the past. And there's still pop songs, but just a little Nashville flair. I'm just excited to get those out. I mean, there's already such a good reaction to Not Lived by You, like from the Nashville community, that I feel like it's the first time it's really like a sound has clicked for me all the way around. So I'm excited for what's coming next with that stuff.
Yeah, I'm excited too. I mean, it seems like you're really clicking with your sound now, and I think you've got a lot of great things coming up. So that's exciting.
Thanks.
So, what are your long-term goals with the music? What do you hope to accomplish?
I just, I mean, I already feel like it's an accomplishment to be able to release music and pursue it full time is like, luckily I have support my family. They've always been encouraging me to go after it. And it is really like a full-time job, especially being an independent artist. But I guess my goal is just I want to keep releasing music, keep writing for other people, other artists. I haven't done it a ton, but there's something cool about also being an artist and also being a writer. And I know how anxious it can be going into a room with people I don't know who are trying to write a song that I have to say, and I know how weird that is for artists. So I think it's fun to help another artist with that and be like, let's chill, let's talk for an hour first, like let's get to know each other, like what's going on. And I know for myself, I'm so particular about making sure I would really say everything that I'm writing. So I feel like it's cool to probably have an artist writing for another artist being like, I want to make sure this is authentic to you. Let's get there, let's get it right. So really just writing, releasing for as long as I can.
Gotcha. And yeah, that's really important is the genuity of the songwriting. Whether you're writing with people, writing for yourself, it's important to be true to whoever it is you're writing with or for.
Yeah, totally.
So, what advice would you give to other artists, maybe who are just starting out and wondering what the first steps are to take, or new artists?
I would say make sure you're making music for you. Um, I think I spent a lot of time writing songs that I think other people would like or want to hear. And it wasn't until like pretty recently that I was like, do I love this song or do I think it would do well on the radio? And do I think it's what the masses would understand or relate to? And I feel like it's such a game changer when you start writing things that are authentic to your life, and people care is what I found. Like people care to hear about your story. If they like you as an artist, they like the way music sounds, like it's just such a bonus to give them a story along with that. So I'd say just be authentic. Don't be too precious with what you put out. I have so many songs that I don't release because I'm like, I don't know if it's the one. And sometimes the song you hate is the one that resonates the best with other people. So I'm
Yeah.
still learning all those things too, but I would definitely say that.
Yeah, that's great advice. I think that's really awesome. So about those songs, have you ever found songs that you performed at writers' rounds or something like that that you didn't think would be as good or well received as they did? Or how has that been in your experience?
This literally happened to me like 2 months ago. So I wasn't the one playing the writers round. One of my co-writers on this one song, she played it at a round, and it was the first time that I had been in an audience in the back amongst the rest of the audience watching a song I wrote being played. So I was like perceiving it with the rest of the audience, and it was like it gives me chills to think about it. It was the coolest moment, and I was sitting in the audience with my boyfriend. We hadn't recorded the song at the time. It was just a voice memo from when we wrote it, and everyone was crying. And I was like not gonna record the song because I was like, it's too like personal. Not many people can relate. Like, I don't know if I'm gonna record it. It's just a voice memo and a pretty song that I relate to, you know? And it was like sitting there and like feeling the like dead silence and emotions that everyone else was feeling, to be like, okay. And then my boyfriend and I went home literally that night and started recording it because I was like, that was just, I don't know, a crazy moment to experience. And we did record that song, and I do plan on releasing it. But it was so funny because normally, I mean, I'd be the one on stage singing it, and I feel like you don't get to be immersed in the reaction of the audience. Like, sure, people clap at the end, but to like sit back in the back and like be sitting in that was awesome.